Happy Earth Day, everyone! And it's not really what I'd call a celebration. Hi, everyone, it's me, Gaming Dew, and for Earth Day, we're going back to the Loud House, but today we're going to be reviewing an infamous episode, to say the least. This one is The Greenhouse, one of the most hated episodes of the entire show. Everyone loathes this episode and is generally considered the worst episode of season 1. And I'm here to say it's pretty bad. It's not a good episode at all, but sort of like No Such Luck, I can't say it's one of the absolute worst episodes to me. And we'll get into why now. Let's start off with the plot of the episode, which is basically about the school, Lincoln's class, going into a Save the Polar Bear competition with their energy sources at home, and, Lincoln's doing quite terribly with him and his siblings, since he's got 10 sisters at home. They obviously use a lot of energy. So the class gets unnecessarily mad at him. My first complaint is, does nobody know Lincoln has 10 sisters? Like, of course they're gonna use a fair bit of energy. I wouldn't have expected it to go through the ceiling, but, I think most of the class should know that. Maybe they don't, because they don't know Lincoln's family personally, but I think a town would know the family with 13 members in it pretty well, so I think he'd probably be known. But that's not my biggest complaint. They do kind of treat Lincoln cruelly in class and say he's going to be a social outcast. It's kind of ridiculous. Like, come on, he's trying his hardest. And then you got this bullshit of Lincoln trying to ask his sisters to pipe it down with the energy, and they go, oh, no, 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 no. Until he shows them the picture of the polar bear that they're trying to save, and they cry, and then they gain sympathy and start to cut down on their energy. Now, this is one of the worst parts of the episode for me personally. How freaking overused this damn polar bear joke is. It's like, alright, we get it. We freaking get it. You've shown this polar bear probably at least 15, 16 times throughout the episode. I know Lincoln's trying to get the point across, but come on. This is probably the episode of The Loud House that overdoes a joke the most, and it's my least favorite aspect of the episode. It gets really freaking irritating after a while. Like, freaking crazy. And then you get the ways they try to cut down the energy, which I'll give you credit of the greenhouse that it is pretty creative. Like how he gives Lucy black shades to make the room black, and he gives Lynn a surfboard and melts her ice hockey rink, and the Lenny part where he gives Lenny a moist towelette instead of letting her shower, I think is a little too far and kind of gross. But, yeah, they're actually pretty creative ways, I'll give it that. But then you got Lincoln. He's pretty selfish in this episode, if I'm being honest. For once, I'm actually gonna say, I can't really blame the sisters much at all. Maybe towards the beginning of the episode they were kind of selfish. But I think in this episode, They have every right to be mad at Lincoln. But you can't really blame Lincoln that much either because he's trying to not be a social outcast, but that's not really an excuse. Because he does this so he can play his video game with his friend. And basically, he shuts off the entire house to have enough energy to play his game with him and his friends, while he makes his sisters pretty much miserable, stinky cavemen looking creatures, to say the least. But yeah, the way the sisters suffer and Lincoln suffers, there's a lot of suffering in this episode that's just unnecessary. And it's not as hard to watch as, say, something like Brawl in the Family or No Such Luck, but it's still not very pleasant. It's really, 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 really... It's unpleasant. It's kind of hard to watch. And then you get the ending where Lincoln does save enough energy to save the polar bear. They win the contest. But then it turns out that Lincoln basically stinks so much that he has to freaking stay outside of school. While this isn't as cruel as Lincoln getting kicked out of the house and No Such Luck, it's still kind of cruel. I get that he stinks probably worse than a freaking dumpster, but at the same time, he is a student, he should be in the classroom. So, that's about it for my review of The Greenhouse. Overall, I think it's got an annoying joke that goes on for way too long. It's got a lot of suffering in it. And it's just unpleasant to watch. But it does have a few jokes and a few cool concepts on how to save the energy. So, what am I going to give it for that? For that, I'm giving it a 3.7 out of 10. This is not a good episode, especially if you don't like to see characters suffering. But it's not quite one of the worst episodes of the show, in my opinion, like most people say. It's got a few cool concepts on how they save energy and a few good jokes. And it's not the worst episode of the show. This is probably a top 10 least favorite from season 1 for me. Probably even top 5, but I wouldn't say it's a top 5 worst of all time. This episode is just what I call bad. So I hope you guys like this Loud House review. I'm glad to be back to these reviews. This one should be a good one. It's a very infamously hated episode that I don't really hate all that much. But yeah, next Loud House review is honestly, I don't know. I'll figure out something. But I hope you guys like this video. And that's about it. Gaming Jew here. See you later. Bye.